Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 89. It's the third and final test in South Africa. Optimism is high, expectation even higher. Is this last chance saloon time? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. It's obviously game day 3. It's the third test. Obviously England looking to get something out of this tour. Lots to talk about today, and I'm joined, of course, by Dan. Hi, mate.
Morning, mate. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. We've got quite a bit to get through today.
There's a few bits I'd looking to bring up myself, actually. Yeah.
So I just want to start. We've had a couple of other people get in touch with us on Twitter, so I just wanted to start with those. First up, we've got a reply to, I think, our last episode from Wesley Tonks on Twitter. He says, guys, a couple of points. We assume that they love their job. Obviously, we made a big song and dance about the fact that the players love doing what they do, and it's their job, and therefore they should suck it up and get on with it and conduct themselves a certain way. But he says, yeah, guys, a couple of points. We assume they love their job. They started out playing rugby and loving the game, but it's now their means to paying the bills. Yes, they have a responsibility to conduct themselves in a good manner off the pitch, but so do the supporters. Thanks for the pods. I really enjoy.
I think that's a fair point. It's quite interesting because I know Hugo Monya, before, I've heard him say that he knew of professionals who didn't like rugby.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's exactly as what Wesley said. I think they obviously loved it and then got to a point where perhaps they'd fallen out of love with the game. But I say it was their livelihood.
If you fall out of love with the game, you're not going to get the best out of the player, though, are you? So maybe that's the time to say, career change.
Maybe if they're getting paid a couple of $100,000 a year to do that.
I don't know. I guess his opinion sits far more in the same pocket as yours, but I just feel like, even if you want to take the love of the game part out, that's just a bonus. The fact is, it is a job. So regardless of the fans, if you're a customer service rep, you have to act a certain way. If people give you abuse, in theory, your job is to take it and move on.
Hold
on 1 second, Dan. I'll have to do this. I have to delete this bit in a minute. So I think Lucy's gone out without keys and she's just rung the doorbell.
Okay,
hold on. I'm recording. It's annoying. Right. I'll just say that bit again about being in the same camp as you.
Yeah, go on.
So I guess, his opinion is kind of in the same boat as yours. I just feel that whilst I get what he's saying, at the end of the day, it is a job. If you're, a customer service rep, for example, you inevitably you're going to get abuse. I know that I've given plenty of it. I'm sure you have too. And, these guys take it. And it's part of the job, if you like. I'm not excusing it, but I'm kind of saying, look, the fans, the supporters don't really have...
They don't have the same obligation.
No, they don't. They're not. Yes, it would be nice if the fans stuck behind their teams at all times. And so I'm not for 1 second suggesting that screaming abuse at the players is the right thing to do. But it's part of the game. These things do happen, and as long as it's not personal and abusive, I think the players have a responsibility, because it's a job, regardless of whether they love it or not. To take that, and all they needed to do on this occasion, and we won't dwell on it for too long, but all they needed to do was ignore the guy, carry on into the changing rooms.
I think so. But Wesley, thanks a lot for that. It's a good point. It definitely is, and it's I mean, everyone's going to have a slightly different view on it.
Yeah. So the second thing actually was an email sent to us. This is from Joe Reed, and he says, "Hi, I'm a new listener, but I just wanted to ask your opinions on a few things related to the last podcast. Obviously, you discussed the third test team and what you would have liked to have seen. I had a very similar line of thought. Would have liked to have seen Spencer starting, Robson on the bench, and Lazowski getting involved as well, as I'm not sure Henry Slade has cut it. But what's your opinion on trying a Saracens lineup at 9, 10 and 12 with Spencer, Farrell and Lazowski? I'm very excited to see Cipriani starting, but do you think that if Farrell can still get a rest at some point, the combination might be worth a look? Thanks, Joe."
So Joe, this is quite an interesting one because, thanks for your email, Joe. This is quite an interesting one because I know you and me have spoke about this before and saying, can those combinations help? My only slight issue with it at the moment is, firstly, England don't play like Saracens. Saracens are so on the front foot, because they just dominate so much up front. But I think you'll find it won't have the same impact. And the other thing, from my own point of view, clearly is, I think if you've got the quality of Danny Cipriani and Owen Farrell and they can play together, I think use that. And Lazowski, he's a great player. Lazowski, I always get it wrong. But he's a great player. But in my humble opinion, I think 10-12 Cipriani, Farrell, or even Ford Farrell is a better option.
Well, I suppose there's the thing, isn't it? You talk about Saracens playing on the front foot, and that's why they're able to play, a midfield like that. And we know, we've seen it time and time again. If England find themselves in that position, George Ford is brilliant as well. So there's probably two. We're going to see obviously how Cipriani gets on today, and we've got our fingers crossed. But he's certainly proved himself in the Premiership. But yeah, there's two guys. And that's not to say that Owen Farrell can't do the job at 10, because obviously we know he can. And there's a lot of questions about whether or not he should be being looked at as the 10. Is that his preferred position? That debate will no doubt rage on. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Personally, I would like to see it. I'm starting to feel like we're running out of time to try different combinations. But at the same time, you look at the All Blacks, and I think one of the things that I quite like about them is that not only do they have, massive strength in depth in terms of the ability to bring people in and it not really have an impact on the game plan, not really have an impact on results and things, but you also get the feeling that there are multiple combinations that would work too. So part of me thinks it wouldn't be the worst thing to have a few different combinations that we know work, rather than having situations where through injury or through needing to rest players, particularly in like a World Cup, it's a long time, you're not going to be able to put out the same 23 week in, week out for the entire campaign. You're going to need to mix it up at times, and no doubt there will be injuries. So to have combinations that you work, if Cipriani is your man, but for some reason he's not available, whether that be, as I say, through choice or through injury, to be able to say, okay, but actually we know that, Farrell at 10 works, or we know that bringing Ford back in works, part of me would say, yes, I'd like to see that, but possibly I would have liked to have already seen it.
Yeah, mate, I agree with you. I think Joe's brought up a really good point, actually, because like you say, the combinations, and it is a good thing, and you see it even, I don't think they're the same team, but you've got like Hooper and Pocock for Australia, because they've played together so much, and when people get that comfortable together, it does make a noticeable difference. So I think it's a really good point. But
I mean, but on the flip side, and you and I spoke about this over the last few days. Sometimes putting people together simply because they're performing at club level isn't the answer. I mean, you just have to look at Argentina, who are the Jaguares, or whatever however you say their name correctly.
It's good.
Yeah, it's the same side, and week in, week out, they're not dominating by any stretch, but they put up a good fight, and they do well in league rugby, in domestic rugby, but they put on their Argentina shirt and suddenly they're struggling, and they have looked awful this summer.
They really have.
And so there's that question, and I think it has been raised in the past, but there's that question of, when you bring an international side together, you're bringing out the best of everyone in the league. From each of the teams in the league to kind of create this Uber team. If you constantly pair people up who play week in, week out together, are you missing a trick in terms of not being able to bring something extra out of those players? Because it's probably a bad example because obviously we're talking about small combinations. But do you know what I mean?
Mate, I get exactly what you're saying, and I agree. And also, what we got to bear in mind is England are not going to play the same. England don't play the same game as the Saracens or any other Premiership club, so you lose a bit with that anyway. But it is equally there is a point where, like, I completely get what Joe's saying, and I've said it before, and I've said it earlier in the week. I wanted Robson to start because him and Cipriani at 9-10 because of the Wasp combination. That there is that level of comfort, but. No, thanks, Joe. That's a good one, and it's certainly something. I'm with you, Andy. It's something I want to see, but I'd like to have seen already.
Yeah, to know. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then finally, so this is an interesting one. So we obviously we obviously I don't think it was the last episode. Was it 2 episodes ago? Maybe, I can't remember. But we had a bit of a rant about one of our listeners and a review that he'd given us. So 2 things here. One, he's been back in touch. So we joked about the fact that he'd still be listening. Clearly, he was still listening. Clearly, he is still listening. He's clearly one of our
love us,
prime listeners, Wade Ackford. So he obviously listened and he's come back to us again. He's written a pretty long response to our comments. I'm not going to read it out because it'll take forever, but head over to iTunes to the review section and you can see what he had to say about us. It's still a 1-star, but
wait, don't do that, man.
I feel like there's a glimmer. I feel like he's clearly still going to be listening. I feel like there's a glimmer of chance that we might be able to turn him around. Let's see if we can't turn the 1 into a 2 and then take things from there. But yeah, I think first off, we want to apologise for getting a bit personal. It's not.
Hang on. I don't want to apologise. I think I was hilarious, but it wasn't meant personally at all. It was like banter. I certainly wasn't trying to attack, but I don't even know who it is. So, but yeah, wait. Sorry, if it came across personal, we do apologise. It wasn't at all meant like that. It was more bants.
Bants. But yeah, it's not what we're about. So we'll put our hands up. We apologise if it did get a bit personal. We were frustrated, but we had a huge amount.
Little bitches.
Yeah, we've had a huge response from people saying that we shouldn't get too bothered by negative reviews. Wade himself claims that it was constructive criticism, although to be fair, Wade, you said a couple of clowns who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with that. I'm not sure where we're supposed to go in terms of constructive criticism. But we didn't take it personally. No, we did, but we're rescinding our feelings. And actually, what we want to say to you is, because to be fair, you've put together in this review quite a detailed sort of explanation for why you feel the way that you do, and we actually disagree with you. Quite wholeheartedly. But, everyone's entitled to their opinions. So we'd actually like to put it out there to you that we'd have you on the pod if you're interested, and you can come in and discuss it with us in person and see if we can't change your mind.
Drop us an email, because one thing that I think is worth saying is sort of, despite the band's last time, what he's put together, it clearly shows he does know his rugby. And I know there's people out there, probably a lot of our listeners would agree with some of his points. They're not ridiculous points. It's just we personally don't agree with them. We don't think it's way. So yeah, Wade, if you're there, let's chat it out, because like I say, I mean, I think your points are definitely valid. I don't look at them and think, what the hell? But Andy and I,
apart from the one about the clowns, you don't know what they're talking about, because obviously we know exactly what we're talking about.
We are clowns, though.
But, yeah. He's half right.
But it's but yeah, no, it'd be interesting to check it out, because, like I say, I think there's some good points you made. It's just Andy and I happen to actually really disagree, not because they're ridiculous points, just because that's our thought process.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, one of them, and this is probably a part of a wider conversation that we wanted to have anyway, because obviously there's been a lot of chat about Eddie Jones and his future. And Wade is one of those guys that's calling for Eddie Jones's head. And I feel quite strongly about this for two reasons. One, I mean, we discussed this in the last episode, Eddie is obviously proven in the past, not just with England, globally, with multiple teams, but probably more importantly with England. And also, look at it from a slightly different angle and say, okay, so we've had 5 losses on a trot on the trot. If we were to lose today and that meant Eddie needed to go, that means we're bringing in a new coach for the autumn internationals. If the England players are capable of turning things around just because someone new comes in, and I know that's a slightly weird one to say after what happened when Eddie came in, but if they're capable of turning things around, then I feel like they're not doing enough now. I think more likely they wouldn't turn things around if that was the case, and therefore, you're potentially bringing in a new person just before a World Cup who might go in with a whole load of losses under their belt. Then we hit the Six Nations. If we have another bad Six Nations, what do you do then? Say we're going to get rid of him again because he's had 6 losses, and then you're in a situation where you're bringing in a new coach, literally for the start of the World Cup competition. I think you have to kind of say, we're committed. It's so close now. Whatever happens, we're committed. And to be fair, the RFU are saying that at the moment. But that's how we also think that's the right call, because the guy that can help, that can aid the England players to being unbeaten in a 12-month period with a record-winning win streak, clearly knows what he's doing. But I think there are wider issues that probably need discussing in a separate episode. We probably need to dedicate an episode to this.
Do you know what? We really do, mate, because it's so hard as well, and not knowing the sort of internals of the camp. But what we've been hearing this week's good. And look, the brutal reality, we don't care about Eddie Jones. We care about England rugby.
Yeah.
But we believe that England rugby would be harmed more for Eddie Jones leaving now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I 100% agree with everything he's doing, and I'm not saying he's perfect, but he is proven. He clearly knows his stuff. And
as you said, there's a lot of senior players in the England setup, and these are guys who will. So, it's not. They're not gonna just sort of fade away because they don't like the way he's doing things. They're going to say something. And in this day and age, if that happened, we would know about it because of the way that the media is and social media and everything else. So I don't think that is the case. Obviously, we don't have the answers. We're going to see what happens, and seeing what happens starts today, and it will always be a case of it starts today when you're coming off the back of a loss.
Mate, do you think we'll be singing from the same hymn sheet if it's another terrible performance today and we get destroyed?
I mean, who knows?
Exactly.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, look, that's probably a good place to switch to today's game, because there's a few things that I think are going to impact today's game. From an England point of view, it's still a key game. Yes, it's a bit of a dead rubber, and the tour.
Mate, I think it's a massive game.
The tour's over in terms of the Test series and what have you. But England obviously with a huge amount to prove. South Africa, on the other hand, they'd like to get a 3-0 whitewash. But you only got to look at the lineup to see that they don't need to win to be happy with their with their summer. It's not a summer tour, is it? But their hosting of a summer tour, because they've already got the Test series locked up, and they're building for the World Cup under new management. So they've made quite a few changes. I mean, one particularly notable one, obviously, is Schultz Brits is coming on the replacements bench.
That guy's such a legend. He's such a legend.
It worries me a little bit that every one of these games, there's been some big thing. Whether it was the first game under new management and a new captain, the first Black Manta captain in South Africa, whether it was in game 2, the Beast in his 100th cap, and now Schultz Brits coming out of retirement to represent his country one last time. I feel, you sometimes look at these games where there's something extra to play for, and you think, a bit like when Ireland beat New Zealand a couple of years ago and broke their win streak, and you think, they just had that extra edge because of this this unrelated thing or this
I
semi-unrelated
hadn't.
thing.
Yeah,
And it's
I
like
hadn't thought about that. But
South
that's a
Africa
good
have had
point.
one of those in every game.
Oh,
Which is always
sly.
slightly worrying. I mean, they're surely going to run out of those soon, but let's hope that the buck stops here. But yeah, it makes me think that
still a good South African team.
It has absolutely. I mean, look, you've got big names like Willie LaRue stepping aside.
Yeah, Jesus, I'm surprised by that one.
That's a massive one because he was fundamental in both the South African wins. So they're obviously trying things out. I'm just checking now. He's not. I mean, he's not. No, he's on the bench. So
he's on the bench. Yeah.
So they have the option to bring him on if things are not going quite to plan. They're replacing Pollard. He's also on the bench.
Yeah, he's a big loss as well. I think he's played well. But they, like we say, they have the luxury,
absolutely,
to really try out.
And England can't look too much into that. They need to say, okay, obviously, they're going to have a game plan. They need to go and execute it, and the discipline. There's probably no point in spending too much time on that because it's clear to everyone that is a major problem. So that needs to be got right today. But they also need to go out and, if they get one of their starts like they've had the last two games, and there's no reason why they shouldn't, they need to really take advantage of it. Particularly with a slightly weaker starting 15 from South Africa, because they've got the quality on the bench to bring back on if things are not going to plan. And England need to make sure that when that happens, one, they're backing themselves anyway, but two, they've given themselves enough of a cushion. And it's kind of that points building that we talked about.
Yeah, game management. Yeah.
Obviously, build points with the boot. But if you can score 4 or 5 tries in the first 20 minutes, that's a pretty good cushion too. Despite what happened in the first test,
I'm gonna be worried if we do that because we take a good lead and we seem far away. I'll be worried if we score too many tries early. We still hope we do, but it's one of the things also that is worth mentioning, and it's different times, you can't compare. But look at England's history in South Africa. We very rarely win a match in South Africa.
Yeah.
This sounds like I'm making excuses, but
I told you before, Dan, you're allowed to make. Part of our job doing this is to make excuses.
Yeah, South Africa is a tough place to go and win, and this is where I hope a difference. The last 2 matches have been at altitude, and I don't care what anyone says. That makes a difference. We don't have that this week, so hope there'll just be a bit more bounce to the boys. Maro will be whooping. Joe Launchley will be looking for his arms that he's lost control of. And
it's going to be a very different game because also the conditions are very different. There's not just the altitude part of them, but they're expecting it to be wet and windy, which maybe plays a little bit into our hands in terms of what we're used to, despite what this summer's been like. But it does mean that it's unlikely to be quite such a high scoring game, and it'll all the more reason to take your opportunities when they're presented.
Yeah, and today I don't really know what to expect today. I really don't. I hope there is a massive backlash from the England lads. I really hope they come out and they really, they really show how much they want it.
Yeah, and I think that let's clarify as well. It's not about covering up the cracks. If England come out and put in a great performance, what I don't want to then see is, it's all fine, everything's back on track. Because that won't be the case. What it will tell us, I mean, a lot's going to depend on that, the specifics of that performance. If they come out and they do what they've been doing, but without the disciplinary issues, and without the silly mistakes, that would be very interesting because that would be, you'd almost be able to look at that and say, well, that is actually the same England that's played in the last 2 test matches without the errors. And if that's good, if that's great, then I think we all get to say, well, Eddie Jones was right, actually. Things are not as bad as they seemed. If they come out, obviously, and they're completely different, a completely new side reinvented themselves, great in terms of getting a result. But you then think, well, hang on, where's this been? It's not it's kind of a good problem to have if that is the case. But
I'm not gonna worry about that. For in my head, we need to win. I think it's because it's so long till the next game. I think it's so important that if we can get a win today, just get the camp that bit more buoyant, that bit sort of more positive. Because otherwise, if it's another loss, which will be the 7th match in a row, you're going into the autumn in not a great headspace. Yeah. And I do think that's a big thing.
It is. It's a massive thing, but I think that, in this day and age, and with all of the information, at the fingertips of the teams and the management staff and everyone else, if they go out there and put in a shit performance and scrape a win, I'm not sure that does a huge amount in terms of putting them in a better place going forward.
I think the win is huge. I really do. I see what you mean. I do see what you mean. But I do think the win is huge.
So do you think? Okay, question for you then: if England put in a great performance, but South Africa have the game of their lives and nab it, would a poor performance win for England be more valuable than that?
I think so.
Really?
As much as anything, in a couple of months' time, unless it's something extraordinary, people tend to forget or have forgotten how the match went. People tend to remember the score.
We do, and yes, as supporters. But I'm thinking more in terms of building for a World Cup. I don't know. I think that the performance is key today, and obviously a win is part of that. But also, I genuinely believe that if they do put in a good performance, then the win will come with it. There's no question in my mind that they could do it. But I just think there's more value to be had from England coming away going, do you know what? We played some of the best rugby we've played, and we did it for 80 minutes, and we didn't make silly mistakes. Unfortunately, we came up against, and I can't see it given the changes they've made. But if they were then saying, unfortunately, we came up against a South African side that just everything went for them, went right for them. I think there's more value in that than if England play badly, but get to say, but we've broken our losing streak.
So I completely get where you're coming from, and in theory, I can see where you're coming from. What I'm thinking though is, like I said, in a couple of months, people will have forgotten, and the England players, all they'll be getting, and from the press and things, is England have lost 6 in a row. England have done this. I just think it's very negative. Whereas I think the positivity of a win, I think overall that's going to help. And then once we've got the win, it can be like, right, because our next match after this is South Africa as well. And then for our next match, we'll be like,
true. So then we can effectively level the playing field by 2-2 if we were to win here today, and then win the next one against them.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Let's just agree to say that England are going to put in a massive performance and win.
That would make life easier, wouldn't it?
For a combined points difference that's higher. So actually, although we'll only have one win out of 3, we'll actually have more points. That's what I want to see.
That would be okay, but
why not? Sips is back from a 10-year hiatus. He's going to do.
Yeah, bloody hell.
He's going to mix things up a little bit. I mean, the South Africans. I mean, you say whatever, don't you? But they're already saying that they're worried about him.
They should be. He's an awesome player.
Yeah. But and they're sort of saying that they're concerned about his ability to work outside the box. It's not easy to target him based on the game plan that you think he's got, because he's experienced enough to make up his game plan to a degree on the fly, which is exactly what you want from your fly half.
Oh dear God. Isn't that normally my?
It is. I apologise. Yeah, I should probably leave that to you.
But is that also, and let's not go into this too much, but is that also a worry that beforehand, like with George Ford and things, they weren't worried and they thought they knew exactly what our game plan was, and it seems they probably did. Is that not a bit of a worry?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, this whole tour has got me thinking. We've bigged up George Ford a lot, talking about how good he is on front foot. I mean, I went through a whole phase of saying that England don't need to solve that problem; they need to solve the problem of making sure they've got front foot ball. But as we've seen, that's not always as simple as you'd like it to be, and you do need the flexibility, in the back line to be able to react and adapt to whatever's going on. And George Ford can't. So I think everyone knows George Ford's game plan. I think his quality with front football means that it doesn't matter if you know it. He's good enough for you not to be able to do anything about it. But the answer is don't give him front football, and then you kind of negate the benefits of having him on the pitch. And I think that's the big difference here is that, Sips will see, we'll find ourselves in a situation where things aren't going to plan. He'll be able to create something from nothing.
Well, he's more capable of doing that. Let's put it that way. I think we need to be careful not to put it all on his shoulders, because I think our forwards need a massive performance.
Oh, 100%. But again, I think, the discipline, if we can get that right, if the discipline had been right, we'd have won the first test. If the discipline had been right, I think we probably would have won the second test. So I really do think that's the core problem right now. It's been identified by Eddie. It's been identified by the players. It's been identified by the world's media. And obviously, more importantly, it's been identified by us.
Exactly. We nailed it early on. But here's my issue. It's been identified 6-7 games ago.
I know. So that's a problem in itself. Is if everyone is aware of it, why are you still doing it?
Yeah, that will anger me if they do stupid things today.
So we need to see them not to do that. Part of me just wishes we'd taken our first team, and I say that like I'm blaming the players.
So I'm almost the other way. I'm like, I wish we'd rested Mako, Owen, Marrow.
Yeah, it's just frustrating when you're not winning, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, mate. Of course it is. And the problem is, we are, and we make no apologies for this whatsoever, we are hugely biased, and we will do whatever we can to try and defend England rugby. But we are second guessing it because it hasn't been. And Eddie, if we're second guessing it, that's not cool. So,
well, exactly. As Dan said, we are hugely biased. We make no bones about it. And actually, as Wade described us, we're cheerleaders. This is a cheerleading podcast about the England team, and I'm okay with being described that way.
Okay. Yeah. I'm all right with that. I don't wait, dude. Respond to us. Come on our pod. I think you fundamentally misunderstand what we're trying to do here. But hey, look, it'll be a good chat.
Our goal is to raise that 1 star. Clearly, you still enjoy listening enough that you listen to the entire episode and then comment on it. So, let's get you listening more regularly. Let's get you enjoying listening. And the fact is, if you're going to keep tuning in, you might as well give us 5 stars.
Oh, I know exactly what it is. We're his heroes. He wants to meet us.
So the 1 star is to goad us. It's to goad us into bringing him on.
Oh, Wade, we're happy to
We've worked you out, mate. We've worked you out. So, get in touch. Email is probably the easiest, englandrugbypod@gmail.com, or you can get in touch with us on Twitter @englandrugbypod. We're on Facebook as well. As I say every week, there is a website. Haven't been on it for a while. www.englandrugbypod.com. And guys, keep all the sort of the comments and opinions and things coming, because it's really interesting and it's quite nice to have those to kind of to let us know the stuff that you're interested in and the questions that you have, so we can respond to them in future episodes. And obviously, following this game today, we've got a bit of a break until the next game, so we need to start getting some ideas for what you want to hear about in the interim. So keep your comments coming. Keep listening. We're obviously going to go now. We're going to leave you with the anthems as always. And by the miracles of media, we'll be back in 2 minutes. But it'll actually be half time. So we will see you then. And hopefully we're going to be celebrating. I say this every week, but not commiserating. I've had enough of it. I can't take any more of it.
Cool. Catch you soon, guys.
Hey guys, okay, so that's half time. Dan, what are our thoughts?
That 3 points at the end was such a shame.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the scoreline. I think we were talking before about wanting, obviously you're saying the win's the most important thing. I was saying a performance is the most important thing. Seeing them out there and seeing the conditions, a performance is relative. We're not going to see 5-6 tries. It's just not the day for it. I think the performance today is all about discipline. I mean, I know we've said that before, but it's so important today. And so far, it doesn't seem as bad, obviously, slightly negated by that penalty right at the end there.
Did you see what happened?
I didn't.
I think I heard them say someone went on the floor, but I didn't actually see how it happened. And
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? The way we're going to have to judge this one is was it on the floor because of just stupid ill discipline, or was it because the conditions are so bad that he couldn't keep on his feet? Some of those we're going to have to forgive. It's going to happen on both sides. At the moment, it's happening more to South Africa, which is great for England.
Yeah, I think so. Overall, yeah, exactly. So yeah, we need to bear in mind they're going to be knock-ons. They're going to. I think the thing that's not bugged me, that's too far, but there's a couple of times where I think we've loose. We could have. I know Marrow once tried to do an offload near our own, try line. And it's just like, take that in. It was an offload to Laundry. He's not going to suddenly run the length of the pitch.
Yeah.
Just take that in, tidy it up. Overall, I think we're doing quite well with that. Like you said in our text group, Curry's all over the place. He's working really hard.
Yeah, he's looking good. I mean, there's been a lot of chat, hasn't there, about how he just hasn't quite sort of stepped up to the plate. I feel like he's aware that eyes are on him, and yeah, he's looking much better today. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those days where we're just going to see more from the workhorses, the workhorses. And he's clearly one of them. He's looking good. Credit where it's due. Rob Shaw's looking good today. Mike Brown, despite a couple of those, a couple of knock-ons that we've kind of said you got to forgive. Although knocking it on when you're just kind of running an open play, I feel like the knock-on can happen when the ball lands in your hands, not so much when you're just mid-run.
I mean, that was unlucky. That was a hand, but sort of knocks it as well. And it's definitely very slippy out there.
Yeah, without a doubt. But they're looking good. Johnny May's having a great game. Putting in a lot of effort. He's all over the park. I mean that.
He really,
very Johnny May-esque to do it. But picking the ball up on one side of the pitch on your own try line, running to the other side of the pitch on your own try line to create the space to clear your lines and get them back out of your 22. That's brilliant on a day like today. Because what we don't want is situations where it's all about the forwards being able to sort of just move the ball a couple of metres in order to score. We need to keep them out wide. We need to keep them well out of our 22 because that way it's highly unlikely that fancy tries are going to get run in. And then it's about the discipline and taking our points when the opportunity presents, which is what we've been doing. I think that one call where Elliot Daly kicked it and didn't make touch, I think it was the right call. I got the impression
the kick was just a bit hard.
Exactly that. So although it was in range, I guess if the ground's a bit soft, the placement of your the non-kicking foot, things like that. If you're thinking I'm just not feeling it for a long kick, then don't waste an opportunity if you don't really think you can get the points.
Yeah, I agree. It was the right call. It was poor execution.
Yeah.
What we need to bear in mind, and this is something where we've messed up quite a lot over the last 6 months, is they are looking to counter-ruck us. Now, England have a habit of not committing men to a ruck.
Yeah.
We need to secure our own ball first and foremost. And actually, since that one incident where we were sort of texting each other, it does seem to be a bit better. But there have been a few times where, it's also been a bit lucky, as in South Africa have looked to counter-ruck. It's just slowed down the ball a bit. So Ben Youngs has had to take it walking backwards. We need to really secure those rucks and make sure we're getting good ball. Because Cipriani hasn't, he's not had a bad game, he's not had a good game, but he's not really had the opportunity.
Well, this was the worry. This is what we said, is that conditions are not going to be right to give him the opportunity to to kind of do the stuff that he does. However, I think on the few occasions when the balls come wide, particularly when England was slightly on the back foot, whether that be through a turnover suddenly in possession of the ball, or whether it be that it's been sort of flung out out of desperation almost, he seems to have quite a kind of clear head on him at the moment. He knows what he wants to do, and he's executing, and he's getting the ball wide. There's been a couple of nice little runs, a couple of nice little passes. He's not had a chance to do very much yet, I don't think.
No,
so I really hope
he's not doing it wrong.
Yes, I think so. I think happy with how that's going so far. I just hope he gets the opportunity to really put his stamp on the shirt, because it would be a real shame if they come away from this and he's kind of forgotten about, which I thought was a bit harsh of Stuart Barnes to say in his little interview before the match. He basically said this is Danny Cipriani's only shot. Either he becomes England's new fly half, or he'll disappear.
Yeah, that's the one. The other thing I sort of heard, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily even wrong, though, because we know what Eddie can be like with players, he can get rid of. But the other thing that I may have misheard this, but I'm sure I heard the commentators saying, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Jamie George has really made that shirt his own over the 3 matches.
I'm not convinced that's true.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not convinced it's true, but I may have misheard. I may not have got that, but I'm sure that's what they said.
Well, if anyone heard that, let us know.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, another question for you. Is Nathan Hughes breathing helium?
Very nice.
What's
How long
going
have you
on?
been thinking of that one? Mate, that was... So...
Not just Faf de Klerk either. I'm not just talking about Faf de Klerk. You get in the right position, low centre of gravity, little guy can do that. Pick up one leg of a big guy and he's going to be hopping around. But just every time he seems to go into contact, he's getting smashed. And it's not the first time we've seen it. So
I thought after that Faf de Klerk one, his contacts were a bit better.
Yeah, a little bit better, but still, I think the thing is he's in there to smash through people. In my opinion, that's what he's doing on the pitch.
Yeah, but the Faf de Klerk people, but I actually think that's really good that happened. In the back of his head, he's thinking, I'm never going to hear the fucking end of this.
Yeah.
I need to now go and smash some people. And I think that's going to be in his head, because he knows that he's not going to be allowed to forget that. Henry Slade. Sorry, I'm sort of watching the screen as well.
Time to make a change.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. As Coop said as well.
Is it
very good for club, not quite for country?
Well, I mean that's there's a lot of people playing in the Premiership and all over the world who are very good for their clubs that don't get selected for their country. Henry Slade hasn't stepped up in any of the Test matches, and I just think if you're going to play at 13 and it's not even missing tackles, it's just getting knocked off. It's tackling's poor.
It's a very hard position
is poor.
To defend. 13 is very hard to defend.
What, when the guy runs straight into you?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but you're constantly moving about. You do have a wider area where I think he struggles at international. He's not quite quick enough, whereas Jonathan Joseph has that bit more pace to help get him into position that bit quicker.
I mean, Lazowski's on the bench, right? Or Lazowski?
I believe so.
So
no, he's not.
Who's on the bench? We don't have.
There were 2 backs, weren't there? I think it was Spencer and Earl.
Solomona?
I thought it was Earl. It could be Solomona, but Lazowski's not on.
Right.
Lazowski would have.
So I would be thinking, what would I be thinking? It's a difficult one. So I'm now thinking that if he can't sort this out, the only option is going to be Daly to 13, Brown to 15, Solomona on the wing.
I don't think Eddie will do it.
So he's going to leave on a potentially a player who's playing badly and has the potential to leave, give the opposition the opportunity, chances to score.
I'm not saying it's the right call. I just don't think he will do it. I think he would.
Well, interesting. That's the only way he can replace his centres, really.
Yeah, because Johnny May can't play centre. Mike Brown can't play centre. Yeah, you'd need to.
You're either putting Daly or Brown at outside centre.
No, you'd need to do Daly, I think. Daly That may happen. That would be interesting. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, well, it would certainly give us the opportunity. Yeah, we talked about wanting to see him at 13, even if it's not a permanent thing. But that's the only way I can see replacing him. That's the only way they could do it. So,
and, do you know what? I think
Sam Simmons on at centre. He's got the pace.
I think at 13, he's not slow, but I think they'll find out. Because do you know what? I think South Africa now have realised that, and Henry Slade isn't slow. Let's not. But I think they've realised that is a good place for them to attack. They've got that bit more pace. They've got some.
It's not even the pace side of it. It's for me. It's everything. He's out of position. He's defensively a bit weak. He's attacking. He's not looked great. Just not feeling it. And it's not that it's not like I'm saying, give the guy a chance. He's had half a game of rugby. He's had 2.5 test matches plus whatever he's played prior to that. In my opinion, he's never played well for England. So, I don't think it's a major issue. I'm not sure we can
send him to the guillotine just yet, but
Well, it's not about saying you never get another shot, but I think there's already a queue of people ahead of him.
I
don't see the value of having him involved.
Yeah, I don't. But Eddie, do you remember in that interview? Eddie said Port Slade had done really well, didn't he?
Well, maybe though Eddie's complimenting all the players that did badly because he's trying to cover his bases. Who knows? But anyway, I mean, so ultimately, summarise the first half. Are we happy with where we are? I know the score. There's only 3 points in it.
Yeah, I think we are. So summary, my summary of the first half is it's better discipline. We are looking more. Although I'm contradicting myself because it is loose, but that's due to conditions.
Yeah.
Overall, we look more controlled. It seems like we have more of a game plan, and as much as anything, two of the things that have been very poor have been discipline and defence. Defence still needs, and I think
focus as well. They seem a lot more focused, even though the ball's spilling around because of the conditions. They just seem a bit more on the ball. They seem a bit more switched on at the moment. That's the way I'm seeing it anyway, and I just hope that that's something they continue with. I think if an opportunity presents itself, with Johnny May running around like he is, we just need to find a space for him.
Yeah, we need to find a space for him. Mike Brown's quite strong, isn't he?
All right,
mate.
I think he's married.
He could be player of the tour.
Maybe. On that note, let's head back, catch the end of the halftime chat if there is any, and see what happens in the second half. And hopefully, guys, we'll be back shortly with some good news for a change. Hey guys, Dan.
Mate, best team in the world. I can't believe anyone ever doubted us. It's ridiculous. We are now unbeaten till the end of the World Cup.
You're not the first person that I've seen to already suggest that might be what we see. Look, to be honest, we've had this theory that England are going to win the World Cup in 2019, and I think realistically, if there's any chance of that happening, barring maybe the All Blacks in the autumn, they're going to need to be unbeaten.
No, I don't think they need to be.
Well, obviously,
I don't think they need to be.
Obviously, they don't actually need to be. They just need to be unbeaten in the World Cup. But But forgetting all that, do you know? It's you said beforehand that getting the win was the most important thing. I said that the performance was the most important thing, and I think we got a bit of both. Like we said at half time, we were never going to get. Because of the conditions, it was never going to be, flair and incredible tries, and despite what we're going to talk about in a bit. But they needed to play good rugby. They needed to manage the conditions, and they did exactly that. They built their score. The error count completely cut it out. I mean, 5 penalties in the entire game. I mean, awesome. People have been screaming at them saying discipline, discipline, discipline. Poor discipline loses matches, good discipline wins them, and this just proves it. I mean, that penalty count in tests 1 and 2, I think we've won 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa actually were poor on the discipline today.
Yeah.
I mean, but we did help force it. But so, if they had lowered, but I've actually got something to tell you, which the reason I didn't tell you earlier is because one, I didn't want to give you that much joy, and two, I'm just really hard. But just before kickoff, I got stung by a wasp when I was in the garden with Arch. Now, does that mean that I now have to get stung by a wasp before every England match?
Yes.
It's like, oh man,
yes,
that's going to get hurty.
From now
that's going to get really hurty.
Well, I also have a confession to make, not quite as weird as that one, but I only put my England shirt has been in the cupboard for the last 2 Test matches. I put it back on today. I've worn it.
Oh, mate.
I've worn it for every Eddie Jones win until the last 2 Test matches, and then I put it back on today. So, do I need to make sure I'm always wearing this England shirt?
You need to get bitten by a lion and wear an England shirt, yeah.
Bitten by a lion, okay. That's weird, but fair enough.
Mate, we got to keep the traditions going. But back to Max, yeah. Do you know what? I really liked it. And you say discipline. And discipline to me isn't just about penalty count. I mean, that's a massive part of it and the main part of it. But it's also about discipline within the game plan, as in people sticking to the game plan, not doing stupid things, not making stupid decisions. And today, I don't think they did. I think Owen Farrell captained very well.
They were clinical. They were clinical from the start and throughout. And there were obvious errors, but the error count was low. The individual error count was low, and the conditions were a major factor in that. You're not going to have a game in those conditions that doesn't have errors. It doesn't matter what team you are. So managing those and limiting them is key, and England managed to do that.
It was so much more mature performance than we've seen from them in a long time.
Yeah, well, I think Owen Farrell summed it up brilliantly when he was interviewed after the game, and he said, "Look, we didn't panic. In the last 2 tests, there have been times when we've panicked, and it's been a little bit like chasing the scoreboard. Actually, in this game, we didn't panic. We went out there, we were calm, we had a game plan, we stuck to it, and they were clinical and." They can reap the rewards now. And sure, they lost the tour, and lots of people will say, particularly non-England fans, will say, "Well, it was a dead rubber," and what are they going to learn from that? But the answer is they're going to learn a lot from it, because they're going to learn that all this chat about discipline, we keep coming back to that word, it's not being made up. It's true.
It's real.
If you stick to your game plan, if you execute properly, if you don't give away stupid penalties, you win matches, and you win them convincingly. You control the game. It didn't really feel like the last 2 games. It felt uncomfortable watching, because you kind of have a sense of what's happening. Apart from in the first 20 minutes or so, it never felt like that. It felt much more like the England of old, where you kind of just felt like they're going to do this. They're in control. Yeah. They'll find a way to do this, and whether it was because Owen Farrell was just regularly putting over his 3 points, or whether it was because of moment. Danny Cipriani. Let's talk about Danny Cipriani. He didn't have the best kind of opportunity, if you like, because of those conditions.
Yeah, he didn't. It wasn't his fault.
But he didn't. But I think and they said it again. They said it after him. He didn't go out hunting a performance. He didn't go out there thinking, "This is my one shot. If I get this wrong, I probably never play for England again." He went out there and just said, "I got a job to do, and I'm going to do it." And as it turns out, that job for the first 60 minutes was a fairly limited one, but not by his own making. When he got the ball, he did. He executed well. He didn't really make any huge mistakes. There was that one pass that he fired at Tom Curry, which I still don't know whether he was trying to miss him out and Tom Curry got in the way, or whether he just put a bit too much on it.
Doesn't like Tom Curry.
But that was about it in terms of mistakes. He made his tackles, but then the moment came. And that was what was key. And that was kind of what he was brought in for, wasn't it? The ability to create something from not so much nothing, because, England were attacking at that point, but just that sort of split second to look up and see an opportunity. And the way that he executed that kick was amazing. Yeah,
mate, you're excited. I like it.
I am.
No, rightly so. So am I. I'm going to find it hard to justify, but not justify it, but I don't necessarily have stuff to back it up. I feel more comfortable with Danny Cipriani at 10 than George Ford at 10.
Oh, 100%.
I feel like, for my liking, I feel like his defence is more solid. I feel like it just every time he gets the ball, if there's a bit of space, you're excited. You think something might happen. It reminds me of sort of when Jason Robinson used to get the ball.
And if we think that as the supporters, how does the opposition feel? You know, George Ford gets the ball. He either puts in a magic pass, which we know he can do, or he doesn't. There's kind of it's A or it's B. You know, Danny Cipriani, it's like you just don't know. And I think, ultimately you got to look at it and say, well, look, would George Ford have added anything to that game that Danny Cipriani didn't? I don't think so. Did Danny Cipriani add anything that George Ford wouldn't? Probably. Defensively,
I think that's well put. Yeah,
it's probably not fair to say that the kick that George Ford couldn't have done it. Would he have done it? Who knows?
Yeah, George Ford is pretty solid in that. I think both of them have great vision in attack, but Danny Cipriani, George Ford is very good at executing it by getting others through. He's probably better than Danny Cipriani at that. But Danny Cipriani, he can create the gaps himself.
Yeah.
He can create that himself.
And that's what we miss with George Ford at 10, is that ability to create something from nothing.
Well, he can to an extent, because he can just read the game so well that he can sort of create it from that perspective. And you know, let's not get carried away. It's one game. Danny Cipriani still has a lot to do to make that shirt his own. But I hope he's done enough now to be given another chance in the next game.
I mean, I think Eddie Jones would be mad not to start him in November when we play the Springboks again. Unless
they didn't look, they didn't look comfortable with him. Like you say, when he got the ball, you could just sense that they were a bit worried. I mean, they said it in the week, and
well, that's what I mean. Like he's unpredictable in a way, in a good way. He's unpredictable, and therefore, I think drift defences can almost don't need to worry about George Ford. He's not an attacking threat himself. Like he can put other people, as you said. You know, he's a very good attacking player in terms of the spaces he can put people into. But he's not going to be a massive threat with ball in hand, like himself. And as a result, he's probably
certainly not as much as Danny Cipriani.
And that's the key. Well, no, I'm going to stick with my opinion that he's not a threat. But yeah, so I think that on that basis, you know, Cipriani has to get the start. You know, whether George Ford is still involved, whether George Ford's on the bench, or whether George Ford comes in for the second game, depending on how things go. But you know, with New Zealand as game 2, I think you have to see if Danny Cipriani brings something to this England side that George Ford doesn't, and I don't think that he's had that opportunity in this game. So I think you have to see it.
So one of the key things I also think that he does, I think he takes a lot of pressure on Owen Farrell.
Oh, massively,
he's a bit more mature than George Ford. He takes control of the game. In my mind, takes control of the game better than George Ford, manages it, and that frees up Owen Farrell a bit more. And actually, I think that's really important.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing today, so the game didn't, because the discipline was good, the game didn't require, from an England perspective, a huge amount of leadership in terms of like individual leadership, in terms of the captain, you know, making a stand, talking to the ref, you know, talking to his players, trying to get the guys to change their mindset, you know, trying to kind of G them up if they were a bit down. Because that didn't happen, I felt like Farrell was able to just focus on his job, and it kind of leads into what I'm going to say next, which is that obviously, you know, is he the future captain? Does Hartley need to come back in, or is there somebody else?
Why do you ask me this every week? I've told you who the next captain should be.
Who?
Launchpad.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, he's a good, solid player, but is he a captain? Has he ever been a captain before?
He's Captain Wasps.
What, like once when someone wasn't available?
For a season.
Why did he stop?
Because he was shit. No, he stopped. He stopped because they were just changing the captain.
Yeah,
year on year.
Danny Kerr captain Harlequins for a year. I think Joe Marler captain Harlequins for a year.
He did.
I wouldn't pick either of them.
No, I wouldn't. And do you know what? Owen Farrell, like you say, him as captain is okay when we're winning. When we're losing, it's just adding that bit more pressure.
I don't think he's a captain. Like he's a leader within the team, but he's not the captain. And I think that he plays better when he doesn't have that added pressure. And I felt like the way that the rest of the team in all 23, well, it wasn't 23 in the end, was it? Because he kept people on. But the way that the guys who played today kept their heads, executed their game plan, and did what they were supposed to do, and the discipline was so much better. I just felt he didn't need to kind of have that extra leadership. He got to just do what he does,
Yeah. So what I think, something that, and today it wasn't that important because of the conditions, but actually with the guys coming back, what I think we've missed this tour is that go forward ball. And now with Billy injured again, like you said, Nathan Hughes wasn't making the cracks, but if you've got a Bentio back, a Manu coming in, even a Jonathan Joseph, I think we'll have more go forward ball from a perspective, which then gets us on the front foot a bit more, frees up the likes of Danny Cipriani a bit more.
I think the thing is we're pretty confident in England with front football.
Yeah, very confident.
It's more about what they do when it's slightly scrappier or in defence or following a turnover. Curry had a great game today. I don't know how many individual turnovers, but it was a lot. And if England are getting that kind of ball, that's not front foot ball. That's right. Now you got to react. Now you need the guys that can turn this into an opportunity.
Yeah, it's exactly. And actually, we haven't, and I said use we as in England rugby, haven't yet answered how are we going to solve when we're not on the front foot, when not even not on the front foot, but when we're going through adversity on the pitch, if we're down by some point.
Well, I think
we haven't yet.
I was going to say the big one's the backpedaling. When a team is doing to us what South Africa did in the first test, at pace and forcing us backwards, that's where they need to. It's obviously today was a lot slower because of the conditions.
Yeah.
What they haven't been tested on is whether or not their discipline can be maintained when they're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good because there were still points today a few times which did annoy me when we didn't commit enough men to ruck and we got turned over. And it's like, guys, they're doing it all the time. Why are we not getting this?
Well, I think was it Ben Youngs that said that there was only Tom Curry and Chris Robshaw who were kind of given license to go after the ball, and the rest, were able to leave the ruck alone and line up like it was a game plan.
Yeah, I didn't understand. So I remember even when we had the ball, there was once where I can't remember where it came off and it went to, I don't know, Launchbury, I think it was. And Harry Williams was the only one there with him. And we got turned over. And it's like, guys, let's secure the ball first. Let's not, let's not just put one or two in because that's what happens in the Premiership. And, people don't counter-ruck so much in the Premiership, whereas at International they do. And we've been caught out quite a few times of that. So I hope that is sinking in.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Chris Robshaw, obviously we've written him off, and then we've talked him up, and then we've written him off, and we've talked him up. I thought he played really well today.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think
we change our minds daily. So
yeah, which we're obliged to do. But Eddie Jones, he was asked after the game about players that had kind of really stood up on this tour, and ones that maybe who hadn't. And the only two names that he actually named were the Vunipola brothers. So that
standing up?
Huh?
What he said they stood up on this tour?
Yeah. Well, not so much they stood up on this tour, which surprised me because I didn't think Mako had been great, but more just he highlighted their importance in the England setup. So clearly, his number 8 is Billy Vunipola. Doesn't matter how many times he gets injured. Mako is clearly, a key member of his front row. So in the back row, if you're assuming fit, Billy's obviously your number 8. Curry looks like he's put his name on the back of that 7 shirt.
He's certainly. I think he's certainly the holder of it for now.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say he's sort of he hasn't got a lot in the bank, if you see what I mean.
He
If he
doesn't,
keeps doing
but
performances like that, he will build it up quickly, though.
absolutely. And I think that the thing is, it's the first time in a long time that it's felt like England actually have a 7 who can go hunting the ball, because the alternatives to Curry aren't out and out 7s.
Yeah, he looks like a pain in the arse as well, which is exactly what you want.
Exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So he looks like he might be putting his name on that shirt if it's not there already, which leaves obviously the number 6. Now you've got Rubshaw with experience, but Wilson came on and looked pretty useful.
He did, didn't he?
He really did.
But I think that suited. I think that game suited Wilson's style.
Maybe, yeah.
In a more open game.
Underhill, Simmons, the other Curry. There's quite a few names vying for that number 6 shirt. Yeah, well, obviously Haskell still is a possibility. So yeah, there's people definitely vying for that shirt. And let's not forget
Donny Armand.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking more like Brad Shields.
I mentioned him a second ago. Yeah, he would have played actually if he wasn't ill. But Rod Shaw had a really good game.
Yeah, he definitely stood up. Nathan Hughes.
Yeah, mate, there's a lot.
That's not a positive. I thought Nathan Hughes. I didn't think he was. I didn't think he was that good today.
Yeah, I don't think he was brilliant today. He is going to have the shittest night, because I'd imagine all the boys will go out, have a few drinks, come about 10 o'clock once they've sung 4 or 5. They'll all be reenacting how Nathan Hughes got smashed by Travis de Klerk.
Yes, they will. We need to be seeing someone somewhere needs to be making a video of that and putting it on social media. I need to be seeing that.
Yeah.
Did Marrow step up today?
He didn't, but it was a controlled performance today, I thought.
Did it lack enthusiasm? That we've been calling for him to be the Marrow of old, whooping and slapping backs and all that kind of stuff. Which may be intentional. That it may well be that he's been lined up for some sort of a more senior role within the team, and he's been told, actually, we want you to just calm that down. I don't know why you would tell him to do that, because I think it's a good thing. But he
did it at the end.
He does still seem a little bit just sort of bit pissed off, bit fed up,
a bit passive.
Yeah, just something's just not quite there. I mean, not that I think he played badly. But I still think there's more to see from him. And what about Jamie George? Because obviously there's been chat about how Jamie George has owned the number 2 shirt, and he's become a starter. And
I hope I said that. I'm pretty sure I heard that. I hope I didn't make that up. I think that hooker shirt is still wide open.
I agree. I think Jamie George has been better for England as a finisher than he's been as a starter on this tour.
Yeah. I thought he did all right today, though.
He did fine, but still too many wild lineouts. I mean, how many of those lineouts did we win because we just managed to flick the ball? They weren't. There were a lot of lineouts that we won that weren't controlled.
Yeah.
I know it's not all about the hooker, but I don't know. Dylan Hartley. It was always, whatever else you thought of him, he was absolutely solid at the lineout.
He's great. I think Dylan Hartley had the best stats in the world for line-out throws at international level. So, yeah, Dylan Hartley's line-out is very, very good.
And so important, because if you can have a line-out that you're 99.9% sure you're going to win every time. I don't know where that number came from, but that's the one I'm going with. It puts you in a much stronger position in terms of controlling the game, in terms of making decisions like, do we go for the corner, do we go for posts, at important stages of the game. So it'll be very interesting.
That's a good thing.
It definitely raises that question again of whether or not Dylan Hartley's leadership, how important is that to England right now, and how important will it possibly be in the autumn? Because I think that's going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I'm actually, and I haven't heard anything at all, and I have no sources, so this is pure speculation. I'm wondering whether Dylan Hartley's concussion is very serious. I mean, he hasn't played since, I think it was the Ireland match at the Six Nations. This is a long concussion, And when they go on for a long time, that tends to mean that there's problems going on. I mean, Dylan Hartley may not even play rugby again. Let's hope to God he does. Even if he doesn't play for England again, let's hope he at least gets the opportunity to make the choice himself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you need to be only making comments like that when you've got some kind of information.
Yeah, that is true. I've just made a massive statement with nothing to back it up. So that's a good point.
It's just to say, I've got a feeling. I don't know why, but there's something just tells me that he might never ever play again. Let's just clarify that that's off the back of absolutely no support whatsoever. Maybe he's just old, and it takes old people, as we know. My voice is breaking. As we know, you kind of past a certain age, and everything just hurts more.
Mate, don't forget, I'm quite psychic. Have I not told you this before?
No.
Oh right, yeah, I'm psychic. So, it's one of my visions.
What is?
But I'm not even going to keep going down this Dylan Hartley line, because do you know what? I hope to God it's not true.
Probably best. So the other thing Eddie said, which I thought was very interesting, and he wouldn't have done if pushed, but he wasn't pushed either. He said some players have fallen by the wayside on this tour, and the only person I
wonder whether that's people who didn't play. It might be Henry Slade.
I was going to say, can you really say that of guys that you never gave an opportunity to?
Like you pointed out the other day, we don't know what's happening in training. There could be something going on there, but
I don't know. I feel like he was asked. He was asked, "Do you think anyone has kind of really stood up on this tour?" And his response was, absolutely. We've learned a lot about certain players, and others have fallen by the wayside. And I just don't think you say that unless there are guys who've played who you think, no, this isn't going to work for us anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm trying to think.
And since we're speculating anyway, I'm going to say he's talking about Henry Slade.
It could well be, which is a shame, because it's not as if he's been terrible. He just didn't look comfortable there.
I thought he was distinctly average today, and England's worst player on the pitch.
I'll agree. He was England's worst player. It's a tough one. But if he's saying players plural,
well, exactly. Who else is he talking about? Ford, maybe?
No.
Isn't George Ford the only other person that he's basically dropped?
He's not talking about George Ford. There's no way he's getting rid of George Ford. He loves George Ford.
Well, it's Eddie Jones.
I think it must be players who haven't necessarily played.
Yeah, I mean,
it must be. There's
something therefore must have happened in training. I don't think you make that call off the back of your decision not to play them.
Yeah, quite possibly. But what we'll do, let's enjoy this victory today. Well done, boys.
Absolutely, it was vitally important just to get us back in. Draw a line. In the losing streak, they're now on a winning streak again. It's one, but it's a winning streak nonetheless, and it's the first time they've ever won there
at that stadium, was it?
Yeah, that's the first ever win at that stadium by an England side. So there's a record in there too, just for good measure. But most importantly, it's no longer a losing streak; it's now a winning streak, and it's about capitalising on that and continuing to build on it. And that's what they need to do.
Favourites for the World Cup.
Absolutely, of course. We're going to win, aren't we? Yeah. But I think the key thing here is, stop now screaming about Eddie Jones needs to go, because the thing that he's been saying since day one is the thing that they finally got right today, and was the reason why they dominated that game in the end.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm really glad to win. Firstly, I think it just changes dynamics so much, and also, it should completely put to bed any Eddie Jones query.
And give on that note, and just before we call time on today's episode and go and enjoy it, we got so caught up in our friends' comments who we don't need to talk about anymore. But I actually missed a couple of others, and obviously we try and get in the habit of reading out everyone's comments and reviews and things. So we had from Fulford Smith. Don't know whether that's your name or just your username, but Fulford
That's
Smith.
That's a cool name if it is.
Yeah, says, so his comment title is "The Haters Have No Idea," 5 stars. Great podcast and gives an honest and open view of true England fans. Quite funny. We'd like to get more of the general public involved and some pro players calling, etc. All in all, great. So really appreciate that. And we would also love to get pro players involved. Not sure they would want to come on, but we can always reach out.
The general public thing's quite good, though, isn't it? I mean, we invited this guy Wade. I keep forgetting his name.
Wade Ackford.
Yeah. I forget. We invited him on because it so disagrees with it, and actually that I think that might be a sign. He may not want to do it. Fair enough. But if not, it might not be a bad idea sometimes to
absolutely
reach out, have some chats with
I think if any of you listening would like to come and have a chat with us, get in touch with us, email us and let us know what you'd like to come on and talk about, and we'll see what we can do. We also had
because we're not pretending we know more than you guys.
No, not
at all. So you're we'd love to hear your opinions on that because we're as sorry mate, carry on reading.
Oh, it's all right. We've had a few others as well. So we also had from Crispy Dino, who also gave us 5 stars. His title,
that I'm guessing isn't a real name.
Probably not. But he titles his review #Fuck Wade. He says, "You boys keep doing you. I don't agree with everything you say, but it's still a refreshing take on the English game. You don't start a conversation at the pub to agree with someone every time." Absolutely right. He's
finally somebody gets what we're about.
Gets what this is meant to be all about. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks a lot for that.
Appreciate that. And then finally from Ollie, calls himself Ollie #8. Always listening, 5 stars. Without a doubt, the best rugby podcast out. This sounds like we've written it. We genuinely haven't. But it's probably a friend. Without a doubt, the best rugby podcast out there for English rugby. Love the faith in the team and the prospects for the World Cup. Listen on my way to and from work. Makes my commute seem a little shorter. It's not too professional, and the banter included lightens the episodes up a great deal. Don't listen if you're a pessimistic, narrow-minded, so-called patriot. Cough, Wade Ackford. Cough. Love the work, guys. So we appreciate the support.
Best friend.
Wade, this is just what other people are saying. Obviously, the invitation to come on and share your views still remains. But yeah, like we said, guys, anyone else who fancies coming on and having a chat, just reach out to us. As I said before, you can catch up on Wade's latest ramblings by heading over to iTunes and reading all the reviews. And obviously, if you're going to go as far as to go there to read it, while you're there, drop us a 5-star review yourself.
And I'm not necessarily sticking up for I maybe am a little bit here, but actually Wade's views are not ridiculous. They're quite knowledgeable views. He does know his rugby clearly, so it is interesting to his take against our take. I mean, he's wrong, but
I was going to say, I thought you were going to miss the key point there, but
yeah, but they're not. I understand where he's coming from.
But yeah, so guys, get in touch with us at England Rugby Pod on Twitter and Facebook. EnglandRugbyPod@gmail.com if you want to email us. Which we'd love you to do, especially if you want to come on. But get in, let us know what you want us to talk about in upcoming episodes. We've obviously got 5 months or 4.5 months or something till the autumn internationals begin. So we need to come up with good content that you guys want to listen to during that time. So any questions that you have, they're always good to give us something to discuss, but also any stories you want to share, and like we said, if you want to come on and have a chat with us about anything in particular, get in touch, let us know what, and we'll schedule something in because we really want to get you guys involved.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not because there are logistics to it as well. So we will absolutely do our best to sort of, if you guys are really keen, please, like Andy says, drop us an email. Let us know what about, and whether it agrees with us, disagrees with us, whatever. That's cool. And I'm just repeating what you said.
You are. It's in case anyone missed it the first time. It saves them having to rewind.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, on that note, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy this result. breathe a sigh of relief, and we will catch you in the week for a bit of a roundup, and we'll have a think in the meantime about what the schedule is going to look like for the next few months. So thanks for listening, guys, and take care.